the seniors of Liberty's first ever graduating class in 2013. As they were the very first to officially be able to say they survived, they petitioned Mr. Schaefer to allow them to share things they wish they had known earlier in their Liberty careers with the younger students. Thus, the tradition was born, and every year, all of the students come together to listen to the words of advice from the most seasoned veterans on how we survived and what we wish we had learned sooner. So I'd like to start mine out with a story. A young man is in a train station and realizes he has time to kill, so he finds himself a cup of coffee, a packet of cookies, and a newspaper. He wanders around for a bit and eventually sits down opposite another young man, professionally dressed and holding a briefcase. He puts down his coffee and cookies and begins reading the newspaper. Starting to get hungry, the young man is just about to reach for his packet of cookies when the man opposite him grabs the packet, rips it open, and eats one. The young man is shocked. Not knowing how to react, he slowly reaches for a cookie for himself, grabs it, and eats it, all the while staring at the oblivious stranger sitting across the table. Hoping that the cookie theft was a one-time matter, the young man goes back to reading his newspaper. Suddenly, he freezes. The stranger is eating another one of his cookies. Thoroughly confused, the young man reaches for another cookie. The men go back and forth eating the cookies and not a word is spoken. Finally, when the packet is finished, the stranger stands up and grabs the empty wrapper. He stares at the young man for a second and then walks away with his briefcase. By this point, the young man is extremely puzzled, but relieved that the stranger has walked away. He glances down at his watch. Realizing the train is arriving any second, he folds up his newspaper and pushes back his chair. Underneath the newspaper lies his packet of cookies. Personally, perspective is one of the things I struggle with most in my life. The ability to step back from my current situation and look at the big picture. According to Jonathan Long, nobody at your funeral is going to talk about how much money you had or what kind of car you drove. They will talk about who you were as a person and how you impacted the lives of those around you. Liberty is an extremely rigorous school, and I find it far too easy to become focused on my grades and success that I lose sight of what really matters. Yes, grades matter. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you to give up and everything will be okay, because that's just not true. However, stressing out so much that you aren't sleeping and aren't eating and having mental breakdowns just isn't okay. And trust me, I've been there, and I'm sure many of you have as well. There is an end in sight, and I can tell you that when you can finally say, I'm graduating in 4 months, it's worth it. I'm a 13er, which means I've grown up with my education revolving around grammar and foundation stones and Latin and the Constitution. In fact, I carry one around with me at all times. Just kidding, but thank you, Mr. Schaefer, it was very useful. Let's be real, Liberty is quite different due to its size. You get to know everybody, and that is really unique, and something that's really amazing. This sometimes makes things really hard, though, because everyone knows everything about everyone else, and you're gonna screw up and make mistakes and do things that you wish you didn't. When that happens, I sometimes feel like everything is falling apart and everyone's against you. Surround yourself with people who have your back, because trust me, it's better to have a few amazing friends than a ton who make you continuously feel like you have to prove yourself. And I promise, whatever happened, you'll grow from it. Everyone is going through life just like you. This means they are struggling with things you can't even begin to understand, just like they can't understand your pain and struggles. Therefore, try to step back and have some patience and compassion. Also, know that the teachers are there to help. While they may appear to be heartless with the amount of work they give us, they truly do care about each and every student and are preparing us for the future. Mr. Lovely does want you to succeed in pre-cal, even if it seems like he enjoys watching you suffer through countless unit circle and power quizzes. I did my homework in pen for a solid 2 weeks just to spite him. I do not recommend that. Mr. Tullius does not actually hate you, even though he described my soul as an iron club and Hannah as a blind unicorn. But I guess that's kind of accurate. Latin is not the worst thing in the world, and as the only student in Latin 6, I can proudly tell everyone I speak a dead language. I actually love it and highly recommend sticking with it. Also, shout out to my friends in Latin 4 who put up with me sitting with them every day and help me with all my life problems. Amy, thank you for telling me a million times that I won't die if I don't get an A in AP Chemistry. I've made a lot of amazing friendships throughout 13 years, and I'm so grateful for all of you and the opportunity to have a solid foundation to start my life from. Thank you. And here's Hannah Lovely.
Okay, I know every year seniors get up here and talk about how great their teachers are, like Mr. Lund, Mrs. Carr, Mr. Julius, Mr. Dipsinski. Even though Aunt Lit has a lot of homework, Comic Lit makes up for it. Others get up and talk about sports, how the boys won the state soccer championship, and how great the community here is, and how you just have to live in the moment and figure out what's right for you. Others share about how they were inducted into the cult of 13ers and about all the virtues and how to achieve better mental health and how you just need to have good time management. And yet still more talk about how awful Latin was, how hard pre-calc was, how great the Curia would have been, and how much easier college is going to be. I also distinctly remember Tristan Hanley sharing how difficult it was to make it through pre-calc because of the glare off of Mr. Lovely's shiny bald head. Okay, there's your bingos for you. Come get candy after. Okay. These are all wonderful and true things, and these are what spoke to these students about liberty. Most of these things I felt, especially at one time or the other, especially pre-calc, and I only made it through one semester. But there are quite a few things that have spoken to me over my time here other than these. First of all, in 9th grade, oh, there's your last bingo spot, guys. Okay, in 9th grade, I fought so hard to leave Liberty. I wanted more than anything else to go to a bigger school, a real high school, a school where my dad wasn't the principal, a school where I didn't feel like I had to stand up for my dad or fight against him. My story was probably quite different from a lot of yours, but I'm sure that many of you have been through this battle. Not all of us in this room are choosing to be here. There are quite a few that I know who don't want to be here. This year, before school started, I broke down screaming and crying in my living room at the thought of having to be here for one more year, and having my dad as principal for one more year. I'm serious. I thought I couldn't stand the frustration of students based on his decisions, and I thought that I couldn't take the judgment, because I knew that no matter what happened, I would take my dad's side. But as I stand here today, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I can honestly say that this has been the best year. And it's because of you all, who I feared most of all. I was shown compassion, love, and mercy by Jackson Kiesicker, even when I didn't deserve it. Tahani and Christina made me smile through the struggles of astronomy, even as I dealt with the fact that I would never understand science. Timothy Barber and Uriah Nibbins have never failed to be there for me, and Paige has shown me what it is like to love like Jesus. She has shown me pure and unconditional love, and it has been glorious to see my sweet sister in Christ open up her heart. I could go on and list many more people who have made this year better, but it's more than just the people. There are some things that I've been learning over these past few years, and bear with me as I share what I feel should be shared. I am not saying that I am perfect at these things, or even good at them, but they are what I have been trying to grow in, and what I have seen bear fruit. Number 1, what you say about others says a lot more about you than it does about them. It can be easy to be bitter or sharp-tongued, but it shows the rottenness of your heart more than their flaws. Number 2, I'm not saying anything about relationships in high school, just that you need to give each other time to grow up and don't hold each other to too high of expectations. It will just hurt both of you. 3, smile at Mr. Curry in the hallways. It will do both your heart and his heart good. 4, love your siblings, even though it might be hard if you don't have as amazing a brother as I do. Especially you older siblings. The little ones just want your approval and love, guys. I also reached out and got answers from many of you about what to share today. Here are a few, with my favorite one being to eat more donuts before your metabolism slows down. I also got an answer that said go to Fossil, which made me laugh. Okay, grades don't define you. While they matter, they are not your identity. There's more to life than studying 24/7, and you really do need to find a balance. How that balance is, that's completely up to you, and that's something that you'll figure out over the years, but just know that they don't define you and they're not your identity. Spend more time living in the positive than complaining about the negative. And guys, there are so many more, but I don't have a lot of time, so if y'all want them, you can talk to me after. I'm so excited to leave for college this fall, but I truly am grateful for the strong foundation that Liberty has given me. I hope that one day y'all will share that mindset. Also, enjoy free school, guys. College is expensive. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Next TED Talk on the stage is Micah Knab.
Alright, let me start by asking you guys this. When you think about your time at Liberty, whether that's 1 year or 13 years, what are your best memories and what are your worst memories? This was a big factor for me when I was thinking about leaving in my sophomore year, but obviously I stayed, so I'd like to share with you guys a few lowlights as well as highlights and see if you can connect with anything that I have to say. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you guys that I am not the best student. And academically speaking, I honestly don't think Liberty was the right school for me. I can be a pretty bad procrastinator, and I can't honestly say that I've passed all my classes. I know most of you can relate that quite a few tears have been shed as a result of this place. But whether that's because of a heavy workload, there could be something deeper, like a struggle that you have with your mental health. And if that's the case, then I say to you that there is hope. Your difficult times are not forever. You will always have people in your corner to support you, and know that it is courageous to seek help when you need it. It is also no secret that we students do not always agree with the way things here are run. Whether it's with the Curia, open campus policy, or dress code, whatever it is, the school isn't perfect. And the unfortunate truth is that a day in the life of a Liberty student is certainly not like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Breakfast Club, and certainly isn't like High School Musical like I always hoped. So if all of this is true, then you might be asking, why should I stay? And why did you stay? And that's a good question. The honest answer is the community. And I know that sounds cliche, but I genuinely mean it from the bottom of my heart. I stayed for the great dances, the fun sporting events, the walk-ins, and the 13 years of memories that I have tied here into the elementary school. Even more than that, I stayed for the philosophy discussions that I have with Mr. Holton, Mr. Tullius, and Mr. D. I stayed for the sometimes scary but very real conversations about life that I have with Miss Dietrich and Miss Carr. I stayed to joke around with Dr. Locke, Miss Salahi, Miss McAllister, Mr. Lund, and all those hilarious people. I stayed to try to understand the strange minds of Mr. Seipel, Miss Scarlett, and Mr. Mayer. Moreover, I decided to stay in a place where I was cared for by students and teachers alike. I'm so proud to be able to be the fourth Knab to graduate here after Brad, Rob, and my sister Genesis, with Katie following, and to have my uncle as the athletic director. I've been blessed to know my fellow Legion of 13ers and the rest of my senior class for most of my life and can share such great memories with most of them. But unselfishly, when I look back at my time at Liberty, I think back to times like last year when Trinity Scarpello was diagnosed with cancer, and the school came together to raise funds for her and her family in such a difficult time. And I think about the year previous when Maria Garland was dealing with her struggle through cancer, and we created events to raise money for her as well. I think about the year when we dedicated our penny ward to the Sindleys and the Keatons and other families going through terrible tragedies so we could provide some light in their dark times. This is something so rare that will be hard to experience elsewhere. I can also confidently say that I would not be the person I am today without the support of my teachers, but most importantly my friends who have supported me the last 13 years and built me up in this place. So when I think back to my time at Liberty, a quote comes to mind from arguably the greatest philosopher of our time. We didn't realize we were making memories, we just knew we were having fun. Winnie the Pooh. So no, I don't have a 4.0 or a full-ride scholarship to the college of my choice. But what I do have is lifelong friendships, a deeper desire for knowledge, such unique teachers who I respect more than they will ever know, a place I can come back to and consider my home, but above all, I can rejoice knowing that there was someone greater than me who is walking alongside me during the joyful and sorrowful times here and is doing the same for each and every one of you. Thank you. now, the one, the only, the luscious, go Dille.
Mr. Lovely is bald. My name is Dille. I've been going to Liberty for 4 years now. I just wanted to share some of the things that I've learned over that time. One of the biggest things I've learned is that your mentality here can dictate whether Liberty is an incredible experience or a prison, and it's entirely up to you. When you walk into school every day, you get to decide whether you're going to tackle what's in front of you or if you're going to let it tackle you. 2 years ago at graduation, Dille said, "Learning to love what is generally disappointing is exactly what family is all about. And in recent centuries, it is perhaps what school has become as well." School can definitely be generally disappointing, as I'm sure we can all agree about at some times. But it's about what you do after you recognize that fact that will make or break your high school experience. Complaining is typically the easiest option, but that only leads to a downward spiral of negativity. It's a waste of time, but it's also toxic and it spreads to other people. And in the same way, if you encourage people, it spreads also. One big thing that everybody struggles with in terms of when it comes to mentality is that it's hard to maintain a positive mentality. I mean, as soon as you ask to go to the bathroom in the class, "Hey, can I go to the bathroom?" And the teacher's like, "I don't know. Can you?" Thanks, Mrs. Solidi. You're not even an English teacher. Like, can you focus on math? But at Liberty, everybody's in the same boat with tough classes. Everybody's going through it, so complaining just doesn't help anyone, and it makes everything worse. When you create a cycle of positivity by encouraging people, you're going to spend less time complaining, obviously, and you're going to have more time for what you want to do, and then it just creates a spiral of positivity. And this allows you to appreciate your teachers more, which leads to more freedom, and it's just better for everyone. Before I finish, I just want to give one practical tip about school, and that is, if you start out the year really well, there's a lot of classes, including language classes, math classes, and English classes, that all build upon each other. So if you start off really well, you're going to do really well the rest of the year, and school's going to be a lot more manageable. Also, this creates better habits, so as you progress through years, it's just easier and easier. So, remember that there's not a lot you can control through high school, but you do get to control your mentality and attitude. And as Dille says, you have the power to make a hell out of heaven or a heaven out of hell. Thank you. Micah Knab.
Alright, hello everybody. So, if you didn't hear Kobe, my name is Micah Knab. I've been going to Liberty for about 6 years now, so I'm only half of 13 or sadly. And I can't really speak to you as to why I didn't leave Liberty. My situation with Liberty is kind of different. I went to 8 different schools in total, 7 before I came to Liberty. So when I came here, I decided I'm not leaving. I want a place to stay and call home before I go to college. So today I want to share with you what made those 6 years actually some of the greatest 6 years I've ever had. And I mean, I've only existed for 17, but they've been a good 6 years. You see, Liberty is a tiny school. According to my coworkers, the total number of people sitting in this room is about the size of Collins' graduating class this year. So we are about 1/4 of these massive high schools around Fort Collins. It's tiny. And we don't always Like, we don't have a football team, we don't have every elective under the sun, and sure, we're really close and we have wonderful teachers, but that's not really what makes high school incredible. What makes high school incredible is you have the opportunity to try new things and find out who you are and what your interests are. And my favorite part about Liberty is it makes finding those things about yourself so easy and accessible because we are so small. You see, I'm a big theater person, if you didn't know. But before I found theater my freshman year, I was a very quiet, shy person. I didn't do much talking. So when I went to my first audition as a little freshman, I completely failed. Huge disaster. I sounded like a dying frog as I tried to sing this weird little song, forgot half of my monologue, and was convinced I'm never going to do anything like theater because I failed that one audition. I'm going to be cut. It's the end. And that's how it would have gone at any other high school, where programs like theater or sports or leadership require so much experience because they have such high levels of interest, because they are such a large student population. However, at Liberty, I was able to become a part of theater, even though I completely failed my first audition. And within that, I found a wonderful, tight-knit family, the little theater family, so tight-knit they could rival the soccer boys, I tell you. I don't know, just saying. But yeah, I found this wonderful family, and I found a part of myself I wouldn't have been able to find at any other high school. Not only did I find that through theater, I found it through house leadership. I used to be part of ukulele club until I realized I cannot play the ukulele to save my life. I was also part of 6-foot senior club, even though I'm only 5'11" and a half. But the wonderful part about Liberty is you have those opportunities and you can take them without risk. So I encourage each and every one of you, go out, audition for a musical, try out for the sports team, try for robotics, whatever you want to do. If it seems vague and interesting, try it. You're not going to get kicked out, and you will find a wonderful group of people who will support you, even if you hate it. Thank you all. Now let me welcome our final speaker, Hudson Majeski.
Thank you, guys. So I have to start out by saying, every time somebody asks me if I'm excited to graduate, and basically it's basically they ask me, am I ready to graduate? And I'm like, well, feels great, baby. Yeah! Quick shout out. But anyways, to get started, so I want to share a story that kind of really shaped my high school experience, and it has to do with cross country, but shocker, you know. Basically my freshman year in high school, we had this race in Brush, where kind of on this golf course, and it was, I would say, like, building up to this point, I'd had a few decent races, but I wasn't really like having the season I wanted to. And I was kind of discouraged and not really looking forward to the upcoming race. And I remember the gun going off, and I was like, okay, got myself positioned in the middle of the pack. Was just kind of ready to see what happened, see how I felt, and just kind of go with it. But I remember after the first mile, I came through and I was like, hey, I'm feeling pretty great. I think I can make something out of this. And I remember running and seeing ahead of me Stuart Hoskins, and I remember just being like, I'm gonna go catch him. And I just kind of started to speed up, and right as I got to him, I remember him saying to me, Hudson, keep going, don't look back, I'll be right here with you. And I remember that just gave me this courage to go and just keep catching people and to just keep doing more. And so as we would come up to the hill, he would just be like, Hudson, let's go, let's attack it, let's go get this next group of people. And I remember just having him behind me, and that race actually ended up being kind of what really changed my whole running career, as well as how I experienced high school. And just for somebody who was older than me, who was getting beat by someone younger, just being able to encourage me, That was such a huge deal. And so this story is going to kind of play into what I want to talk about. But to start out, so what will satisfy your high school experience? Is it making yourself happier? Is it preparing yourself for the next stages of life? Is it being satisfied by a relationship with a guy or a girl? As shocking as it may seem, these things, though relatively good, will never give you what you look for. Through my 4 years in high school, I've still not learned this, but I will share a small piece of what I've learned with all of you. Why do most of us go to this school? Maybe it's because your parents forced you to, or because you wanted a challenge, or because your friends go here, or something along that line. No matter why you're here, I can tell you it is for a greater reason. We may not even know the reason until we leave, but I know each of us will learn something from this experience that goes beyond our education here. In light of these reasons, I want to share one way in which all of us can help cultivate a culture that brings life and joy to our individual experiences. As Kobe said earlier, we affect others by what we say. Complaining and gossiping negatively affect the culture of our school. There are so many people in our school that have had their experiences affected negatively by the bad things they hear about it. And what is the most common complaint? Homework. I can tell you that though there's a lot of homework, it is not the only thing to focus on at Liberty. There are so many good things about the school, the teachers, the topics we discuss, the tight-knit community, the front office ladies, our admin who greet us in the mornings, and the hot lunches are a few. If we began describing our school by these things to the classes beneath us, the experience they have will be greatly improved. As students, we can help determine the culture and shape it to be a place where everyone feels encouraged and built up. All of this can happen for a time, but the only way it will last longer than our time here is if we choose to invest in those younger than ourselves. I encourage my class to make this a reality, but we're all leaving next year. It will be the classes below us that can really make a difference. If we focus on speaking words of life and encouragement to our classmates under us, it will create a snowball effect that continues to move as long as Liberty is around. Leaving a legacy like this is something to be truly proud of. If each of us in this room can finish high school knowing that the legacy we left brought life to the school, then we can be satisfied in our experience here. As great as our school is academically, I believe that is not where our true strength lies. Yeah, our SAT scores almost always get first in state, but how does this happen? It is all because of the culture created by the students and faculty at this school. People like Mrs. Carr and Tullius, though completely different, create a safe place for the students by making us feel loved and allowing us to be who we are. In light of this, we as students can be free to fail and learn from it. This gift is what has made our school so great. So I encourage all of us to leave a legacy worth remembering, where generations and years to come will be impacted and encouraged to leave their own. So that's kind of the end of our this time here. You guys are free to leave. Look down, look for trash, pick it up, go throw it away. Okay, thanks.